Welcome to the Sigma Show, episode 93. I'm your host, Sigma. Just before I let you know who's joining me this week, real quick, we'll go over what our topics will be. We've gotten some information about UK regulators pushing back on this Xbox Activision merger. We'll talk about what some of the concessions they're suggesting might be, and kind of what their problem is with this this time. And we had a Nintendo Direct this week. Lots of big news, actually. And we'll kind of dive into maybe not everything they announced, but the stuff that matters to us that they announced. And here to talk with me about this today, Rachel Kaiser.
Hi everyone, you know who I am.
And we love who you are. Superman Jeff.
Yep.
Riding in that Alpha as always, and Yokina Cat.
Hey y'all.
Straight from Texas. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Always a pleasure to have you here. We can jump right into things if you like. What have you been playing? What have you been watching? What have you been listening to? What have you been reading? Tell me. I need to know. What's up, everybody in chat? I see you guys.
I can go. So as far as listening, I've been listening to King Disease 3. That's been really good.
Oh, word?
Yeah. I
That's
actually
Nas
like
for
it
anyone
better
who
than
is
2.
not.
Yeah. If you don't know, so that's Nas. I like it better than 2. You got a lot of samples. You got the from the Five Heartbeats. If you're not familiar with that, it was a fictional music group similar to like the Temptations.
Yeah, it's like a fake story based on a Temptation.
Yeah, they sampled like something from there, which was really good. Listening, that's about it. Watching, I've been watching The Last of Us. I think I'm like 2 episodes behind. Last of Us has been really good.
Yeah, I just caught up on the last one.
Oh, nice. It's been really good. I like it. Pedro Pascal doing his things as usual. Next, I'm looking forward to is going to have the Mandalorian March. So that's going to be too much Pedro Pascal.
Really?
Too much
Can you actually have too much Pedro Pascal?
That's what I'm saying. Like, too much is too good. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if I can handle that. It might be Pedro Pascal overload, you know? But the Mandalorian, I'm definitely looking forward to. Season 3 comes out in March. And I think The Last of Us, is wrapping up this month, if I'm not mistaken.
Does anyone remember how many episodes is in the series? Is it like 9 or 10?
I think it's like 10. Because, they kind of...
10. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of those series kind of go to either like 9 or 10. It's very seldom do they go like higher than that. Even like the Disney Plus series. I think that's all I've been watching. Playing, I haven't played much. I played some God of War. I think I've done maybe like 45 minutes worth, which is really good. I'm very much enjoying it. It looks amazing, and it is so much fun. The character models are very good. I love the way Thor looks, Odin, obviously Atreus and Kratos. I think they did such a good job with this. Like, I was excited about the stupidest things, like the fact that you could see like the wrinkles on his knuckles. I was holy crap! Like, this is a very, very good looking game, and it's so much fun. I have not started Hogwarts Legacy, which I need to at some point, maybe like this week. And that's it.
All right, nice. Thanks for sharing. Anybody else want to jump in?
It's hard to say what I've been playing because I'm playing some things to review, so I actually should not talk about them.
Right,
One of them, I don't think I can even tell you what it is, but I can tell you I've been playing Octopath Traveler 2.
Wait,
so I can't.
That's not out though, right?
No, I'm saying I'm playing it for review.
For review, okay.
Yeah, and I can tell you that I'm playing it, but I can't
say anything about it.
Can't really say anything else. So keep the lip zipped on that. I did finish Forspoken, and I'm actually because I did a review in progress kind of, and I wanted to finish it before I gave an official rating, and I also kind of want to do a little just because the discourse around the dialogue and the writing in the game has been really fascinating to me.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about doing like a little essay on why Forspoken sort of why there was such a negative reaction to the dialogue and the writing in the game. Why it might have been justified, why it might have been a bit of an overreaction, that kind of thing. watching. I did finish Legend of Vox Machina on Friday, season 2. So that was a lot of fun. I've been playing a lot of D&D lately, so this is just fitting into my lifestyle right now.
Fair enough. I have not checked out any of Vox Machina yet. Like I've only ever heard good things. But
Yeah,
I
you're
just
missing out if you're not.
I
It's
want
so
to.
good.
I just haven't gotten around to it. But I was
Um,
also not a fan of like Critical Role before that, so like I'd be going
yeah.
into it like totally blind, and I'm assuming that's fine. Like this is like a good
Hmm.
jumping in
hmm
point.
I think it's fine. I like the humor in it, but I can also see it might put some people off. It's definitely not kid friendly. So definitely don't watch it with your son is what I'm trying to say.
Fair enough. Okay. Does that wrap things up for you, Rachel?
Yeah, sorry if I'm a little low energy today. I haven't had my coffee.
No
But
worries.
yeah, it's hard because I want to talk to you about the stuff I've been playing, but I
Same. No, I feel that because there's one game in particular that I really want to talk about. I cannot wait until after its embargo lifts to talk about this game because it's nuts. But I can't tell you what it is yet. But on that note, I haven't actually been playing all that much either, or at least not all that much that I can talk about. But like Jeff, I've been watching The Last of Us. I caught up on everything last night, and it is a phenomenal series. Like the like I was a fan of the Last of Us game series, but I always criticized it for being like much more of a good story than an actual video game. And like them translating it into the medium that clearly they were aping from the beginning is like it's just a perfect fit. Like I feel like some of this stuff that you know from the game, they translate in the TV series a lot better. Like it's fleshed out more. Like you get a lot more nuance to like the characters and whatnot. And no shade to the original actors, voice actors, and motion capture performances and whatnot, because that was all great. Like I loved it in the game. But this is the medium that story was meant for. Like kind of clearly, like the stuff in the video game where like situations get padded out because they're in a gunfight or they're in a stealth section with the infected or whatnot. That's fine because that's for the video game aspect. But that was that was the most boring part of the game, honestly. So like, The Last of Us is thriving as a TV show, and I'm curious what else could what else could kind of copy like follow in that footsteps. And it's a lot of Sony stuff because that's kind of their bread and butter. Is like we'll make a
Right.
very
Yeah.
average game with a ton of high quality Hollywood-esque production for like the story and visuals and cinematics. Like Ghost of Tsushima as a movie will probably be a much better experience for me than it was as a game because I got very bored of running around an open world, though I was into the
That stuff
story.
like Uncharted would have made a better series as opposed to a movie.
Yeah, probably. But
Yeah, I
Uncharted
do.
was like the earliest of their attempts at this too, so like that could be a problem in terms of its adaptation and the fact that it was kind of aping an adaptation in the first place. Like it's Indiana Jones.
Was
But
it was the movie really that bad? Because
it
I
was
haven't watched
okay.
it.
Like it was fine. I thought it was
Yeah,
fine.
it was a C movie. It was a C
I
movie.
yeah, I have a very specific reason for disliking the movie. It's like a very niche. It's a very particular and very nerdy reason, but it's more but if I'm putting that aside, yeah, it's an okay movie. Yeah, not great. I do kind of wonder, and since you're talking about it, Casey, I'm kind of wondering. It's very hard to imagine the world where they just went in and made The Last of Us as a series before it was a video game.
Hmm.
I'm kind of wondering if it would have even half the hype that it does now.
That's a
Because
good point.
everyone's saying it's like, well, yeah, this is what this is the sort of format this series, this story was meant to be told in. A video game was just trying to tell a story like this, and now we're seeing that this is like that fully realized. But would it have gotten even half the attention it's getting now if it were not originally a video game? Because like I feel like a lot of the people who are praising it now, I'm kind of wondering if it had just come out as a series, they would have said it's like, look, we've had The Walking Dead, we're full up on zombies, no
Yeah.
thank you, no more.
Like I think that like on both sides of that, the Walking Dead's existence is sort of proof that there was a place for it to kind of reach that sort of fervent fandom, but also the fact that it exists is a reason to maybe say like it wouldn't have, right? Like there's no way to
Right.
really know. The fact that it is a video game in this timeline is largely the reason why it got all the attention. Like it probably wouldn't have been even an HBO series if this was pitched at the beginning.
Right.
HBO wouldn't have taken the chance on it for it being that
Right.
niche.
And also, I feel like the game gave them kind of more of a head start on the story, right? They knew the story worked. They knew it was compelling already. Now they could afford to make changes that still fit into the overall, Last of Us story while adding its own spin to it. Because they said, it's not a direct correlation between the game and the show. It's more set into a different universe, but, built around some of the same characters and stuff.
And I've seen, like, I haven't played the game or seen the series, but Twitter is a place where I've been able to find like bits and pieces, like people's reactions and stuff to the show. And I heard, I'm a big Nick Offerman fan. So I know they said, I guess he was on episode 3 and people were just like in shambles over his episode. All I've seen is good stuff about the show on Twitter. Like I haven't seen one bad thing. And kind of going off of what Jeff said about how they've taken game, it may not really reflect the game itself, but it's like little things, like someone did like a side by side of like the load screen of like the window on the game.
Yeah.
And then they did like the window, like looking out of, I guess you could see like the farm, like little subtle things like that. Obviously, someone who's never played the game isn't going to notice that, but someone who's played the game is going to be like, oh snap, like I know where this is from, kind of thing. So
and they do a lot of that. Yeah, like there's in the most recent episode, they're in a location where I was surprised they didn't dig deeper into what that location was. But if you played the game, there's a story that takes place in the literature. Like, you know how you just pick up documents and like read stuff and scribbles on the wall. Like, something very specific happened where they're currently at, but they don't touch on it in the show because the show is dealing with a different situation. So it's like, this is just for the players. Like, they know what happened here. And the people watching who don't will, maybe if they decide to play the game at some point in the future, will be like, oh shit, that's the room where this situation happened. And that's a neat little like Easter egg that is pandering to the original player base.
Yeah, it's like kind of like acknowledging the players that played the game before they watched the show. Like, like you said, they're in that exact location where something happened, but they don't really touch on what happened there. So it's kind of like, like, okay, we know it's a game and we know this is for y'all.
Right.
So y'all will appease you in some form or fashion. So I think it's really cool. I'm not really much of a zombie like show or game. Like, I mean, I guess the closest I would say I'm a really big fan is Resident Evil. But other than that, I'm not really much of a zombie fan. So
yeah, I
may have to backtrack and play The Last of Us and go in and play and see what it's all about.
They are coming out with a remake, and I think we're going to see something akin to what we saw with Cyberpunk and Edge Runners, where we saw a resurgence in
I think that already happened.
New and old.
That's already happened. Yeah,
like they already.
But they're coming out with a second part too, so I think that's going to be another thing because they're bringing it out in parts. They're not doing it as a whole game, right? If I'm correct.
Wait, remake?
What are you talking about?
Yeah,
the remake that they're coming out with.
No, the remake is already out, and it's not 2 parts. It's just called Part 1 because the sequel is called The Last of Us Part 2.
Part 2. Yeah. So the remake they just retroactively named Part 1.
Yeah, and it's also not a remake; it's a remaster. Let's semantics aside. Yeah. I don't care about it's the precise same game, just with a graphical up tune. So tune up.
Yeah, but they're labeling it as a remake. So that's what they're labeling as a remake of.
I don't care. I'm the authority here.
Okay. I'll be the judge of that on my own, but thank you.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, that's pretty much it for what I've been watching. So, Kat, if you want to close up?
Sure. I have really not really been watching anything. I finally finished my binge of New York Undercover. I've been binge watching it.
That's a really good show, though.
It isn't it? Like, I just finished binge watching it.
You might be a little late. You might be a little late on that.
Well, actually, I'm a really big fan of Dick Wolf. Like, obviously, he's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like so. Yeah, don't come for me, Jeff. Look. This is the first interaction you've had in a really long time, bro. Like, let's keep it copacetic. What?
The '90s was a couple years ago. I'm just.
We're both fighting with Jeff.
And it's actually really interesting. I guess Malik Yoba and Marco De Lorenzo, after the second season, they were about to start filming the third, and they staged like a like a strike. Like they wouldn't show up for filming. So hold on one second. I think okay. So they had a list of like all these demands. If they want to start getting paying $100,000 per episode. They wanted their own trailers. They wanted better food on set. And Dick Wolf basically told them like, y'all tripping, because I guess at the time, Friends, they were making $1 million per episode, and in their time slot, New York Undercover was getting just as big as numbers as Friends in their time slot. So I thought that was an interesting tidbit. I really don't like the way it ended. I think it was kind of jacked up that JC and Nina got together at the end after Eddie had died, but I digress.
Oh, spoilers.
Oh, my bad. Sorry.
Really? You're going to mention spoilers after you talk about how old the show is?
It's been out since the 90s. Catch up. Okay. So,
no, I in regards to like that behind the scenes tension, I feel like I remember hearing that particular character was killed off because of that. Like it was like out of spite that they actually murdered that character that way.
Yeah.
Basically, like because I watched it because I was like, oh my God, like why would they kill Eddie at the end of season 2? Like he's popular, like he's one of the main characters. But when I went back and read, I was like, yeah, like this makes so much perfect sense now, because basically Malik Yoba got it together and was like, I'm not messing up my check. So like, he was like, yeah, I'm gonna get it together. But it was just really interesting. So I just finished that. So other than that, I haven't really been watching anything. Playing, we all know, we've been in the chat, we've been in the Discord. Animal Crossing is controlling my life. Help me, please.
You in debt. That's what I keep hearing in the chat.
I'm actually not. So I created like a garden that is just ridiculous. It looks like an industrial garden on my island. It's pretty ridiculous. But after I harvest it, I can get pretty much like 200,000 bells out of it.
Mm-hmm. Ooh.
I've pretty much paid off all my stuff from Tom the Crook.
Tom the Crook.
So I've been playing that. I registered with the official Tekken Bandai esports website.
Nice.
Yeah, so now I can start playing and accumulating points. It's a kind of like a confusing system for me because I've never really been like a real big tournament person. So I guess it's something along the lines of you start playing within like your region and you accumulate points and you qualify to actually participate in the Tekken World Tour. So they actually just posted that Tekken World Tour 2023 is live. So now so I've actually been playing a lot of Tekken, but I haven't really been playing online. I've just been in practice mode a lot. So yeah, so that's gonna happen. So hopefully I can start showing up on leaderboards, and I downloaded the frame data. There's like a little, I feel like we shouldn't have to pay for it, but I guess if you're trying to get competitive, I mean, it's only like, I think like $3. You can download the frame data. It's like a DLC. It's like a downloadable DLC.
Add on to the game.
Yeah, so like if I'm in practice mode, it breaks down like the frame data. So I actually just did that.
That's insane that they make you. Well, I guess it's not insane. Like it's just business that they make you pay for that, because that is apparently a feature coming to Street Fighter 6 that's just in the package. Like,
yeah, so like in Tekken 7
practice mode.
And I'm assuming hopefully in Tekken 8 that it's just included, but I know for Tekken 7 we have to pay for it. So yeah, it's getting, Tekken is starting. I'm hoping to start playing it competitively in the future. So
nice.
Yeah, thank you. And then also I've been playing. I haven't really been playing Apex Legends, but they just posted everything for season 16. They basically just revamped the entire game for season 16, and also actually it's made me excited about the game again. There's a lot of changes, a lot of really good things. Apparently they're going to start adding bots into lobbies, and this is for, I guess, like new players, for them to get used to, I guess, playing like within, I guess, the lobbies, which for me, I don't care. Some people may complain about it, but I really don't care. So
I feel like a lot of battle royales actually do that. Like for new players, they'll match them up with bots so that they can get like early wins, and like that kind of endears them and hooks them on the experience. Because like you die, like the first time you play the game, you like are the first person to eliminate, you're like, yeah, this ain't for me, dog. Just put the controller
Yeah,
down.
and I think another reason why is they have a mode called Arenas where it's 3v3.
Yeah.
And they're getting, and I think that is such a perfect way for people to get used to Apex because it's only 3 versus 3. So, but they're getting rid of that mode in season 16. So I kind of, I was very
replacing
surprised.
it with something, or it's just
no,
gone?
they're just team deathmatch. 6v6.
So they're expanding it out. Okay.
Yeah, so they're just calling it team deathmatch. So I really think that the whole bots in lobbies for new players, I don't really see a problem with it. And then it's just a lot of pro players that are complaining about it. I'm like, if you're a pro player, then it shouldn't be an issue.
You're not gonna see no bots.
That's easy kills. You're not going to see it, or if you do, it's just easy kills for you. So, but other than that, I haven't really been playing anything. Reading, I'm reading the Similarian, and
Is that Lord of the Rings thing?
Yes. So after
What do you mean Lord of the Rings thing?
Like the thing that
the Silmarillions about
it's basically it's a breakdown of Middle Earth. So after J.R.R. Tolkien passed away, his son J.R.R. Tolkien actually started writing the Silmarillion, but after he passed away, his son essentially passed the torch to his son. Like his son there's actually 7 volumes, and breaking down like the history of everything. So like I'm currently reading the Similarian, which is a breakdown of Middle Earth as a whole, but there's also 7 volumes specific to certain things in Lord of the Rings lore. Like I'm also reading the Treason of Isengard. So after that, I'm gonna switch to my literary favorite, Fast and Furious. So
oh, Lord.
Rachel, I don't know if you saw that tweet I don't know if you saw it in the Discord or if you saw it on Twitter. Vin Diesel compared Fast and Furious to Lord of the Rings and J.R.R. Tolkien.
I didn't notice that.
Yes, that's why I made.
Yeah, he said, he understands the difficulties in crafting, like a
trilogy,
a series featuring tons of lore. Which, fam, I 100% get it. Fast and Furious is one of the most fantastical series on the planet. Like I unironically love the Fast and Furious series. I cannot wait.
And
to
I
see
get
Fast
what
10.
he was saying.
I
like
do too. Yeah.
I'm just poking fun at the comparison, but it does make sense to keep something going, especially something about cars. It's quite impressive. It's quite impressive that they've been able to stretch it out or create new storylines and I guess Fast and Furious lore. Which sounds weird to use that word with that franchise. If you've seen,
because the new trailer actually just dropped. I wanted to actually put the Fast trailer on our breakdown today, but I was like, no, nobody else is gonna care about this.
I saw it too.
We can have a whole stream about it.
But no, like they legit the last trailer pulls stuff from a previous movie. They're like, oh, this happened then, and because of that, it set off this chain of events, which is coming to pass
Rest
now.
in peace, Paul Walker.
Right.
I know.
So like Vin Diesel is legit digging into the lore of his movie franchise to give you additional story, and it makes sense that he would compare it that way.
Yeah, so I'm not saying it's a bad. I just thought it was a funny comparison. Like, oh yeah, one of my favorite literary works, The Fast and Furious. But other than that, listening, Paramore came out with a new album. It's okay. Right. I like it. It's definitely more on the ballad side of
like the whole thing.
Paramore music.
Like
there's a lot of ballads on it. But I like it. It's pretty good. Sorry, my little part was kind of on my bad.
No, it's fine.
Can I just say something about, since you're talking about the Silmarillion? One of the funniest, somebody mentioned in the chat that they heard it reads like a history book. One of the funniest like pieces of trivia of my life is that when I was younger, I worked on a horse ranch, and the woman who ran the ranch was like about what you'd expect a ranch woman to be. She was like this small, tough woman. She had like this like scruff of like this very like dishwater blonde hair. Well, I mean that's unflattering. I don't mean to sound unflattering, but it was like just like this scruff of like really thick hair, and very very tough. Tanned. Like calluses all over her hands. Like, this just the
A hard
toughest woman,
worker.
Mhm.
hardworking. You know, she's like she could plant her feet and no horse could move her ever. And you know, just I admired her a lot. And she, until I went to college, she was the only person I'd ever met in my life who had read The Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, The Silmarillion, and the entire collected works of J.R.R. Tolkien. And I remember bringing it up once that I had tried to read The Silmarillion, and I was probably like 14, and I was trying to sound like, and I admitted it was hard to like try and read. And she said something like, "It's great once you get past the first 100 pages of genealogy."
Yeah, it really does. It's a very slow read at first. And that's why I'm rereading it, because I tried to read it before and I was like, yeah, this is it's kind of tough to read through, but it's a little easier for me now. And then I also I'm kind of reading, there's like 7 volumes, right, Rachel, of the yeah, so there's 7 volumes. The Treason of Isengard, I think, is either volume 4 or 5. So I'm not even reading it in order. But so I'm just kind of just grabbing the books wherever I can and starting to read them. So, but I am dead set on finishing the Silmarillion. So, but that's pretty much
keep us updated
what
on how
I'm.
it's going, because that sounds like a monumental task. I, for one, I just don't be reading, so I'm definitely not reading something as dense as that.
Well,
But yeah, that shows some real dedication to that franchise.
Yeah, my the reason I brought that up is because my traders, like, she did not look like the sort of person who read the Silmarillion, or at least because I was, again,
Yeah.
14, like the sort of like the nerds that I knew, is like she did not look like the sort of woman who knew the entire lore of Middle Earth, but she could recite it all from memory.
Damn. You like read it to her cows?
That's my aspiration, is to be like that, because I'm a huge Lord J.R.R. Tolkien fan. I just love.
First, you're gonna need a horse ranch.
Okay. Well, my
No
grandma,
pressure.
the King Ranch in Texas, my grandma lives on the ranch, so I'm kind of like part there.
You're close. That's
I got
you're adjacent.
like
That's
one.
good enough.
I got like one toe in, Rachel, because my grandma lives on the ranch, so I got like one toe in. I'm almost there.
You got it. Sorry, we just went on a big tangent.
Tangent, okay.
That's what this
doing
part of
my
the show is
coffee.
for. So tangent away. But I will.
Did you watch the?
Mhm.
I'm sorry, I just had a quick question. Did you watch the Rings of Power?
I did. Yeah. And I actually really enjoyed it. Honestly, I preferred it. I know that Peter Jackson, he directed The Hobbit as well, correct? For some reason, I just did not like The Hobbit. It seemed, in comparison to the Lord of the Rings trilogy, it seemed more cartoony, if that makes any more sense.
Like, to be fair, Peter Jackson didn't enjoy it any more than you did, probably.
Like the Hobbit was originally
like,
meant to be like a children's book anyway, or something, right?
Yeah,
it was.
When I first saw it, I saw it as an animated tale.
It was, the animated Hobbit. I think it was more. It had more of that childish, cartoony feel to it. The movie, so I didn't really much enjoy it. I really enjoyed Rings of Power because it was more. It just brought me back to like the way that Lord of the Rings trilogy was filmed, like it fit. And it actually made me kind of. So there's actually a published book of letters that J.R.R. Tolkien wrote, and I know a lot of people were having some issues with hobbits and halflings being of a darker skin complexion. There was a lot of people on Twitter, like, they just had issues with people of color being in Lord of the Rings.
You don't say.
Like, it didn't geographically and blah 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 blah. Like, it was just crazy. And actually, if people really dive into the lore or into like his works, he describes the earlier halflings being of a darker skin tone. Like, I know we kind of touched on this on a previous Sigma show, but actually, one really interesting tidbit about J.R.R. Tolkien, Jeff, was, I guess, once Lord of the Rings was published back in the 1930s and in the 40s, a German publication wanted to like publish the book, but they asked him if he had any Jewish blood in him, for obvious reasons. And he wrote a letter back to them basically saying, I don't have any blood of that wonderful race of people. However, basically telling, like, screw you, I'm not going to let you publish my book. And then he wrote a letter to his son who carried on his works, basically calling Hitler a ignoramus. So it's pretty cool. Yeah. Long story short, yes, I've seen Rings of Power and I really like it. And it kind of had me go down a rabbit hole of just J.R. Tolkien's personal life because of what people were saying on Twitter. So, yes,
nice.
I enjoy it.
I
So I'll
can't help
definitely
but
have to
feel. Yeah, go ahead.
go. I'm sorry, were you saying, Rachel?
I was just gonna say that I can't help but feel that if Tolkien were alive now and saw all of this, I think the last thing he would take any issue with is the skin and hair color of the actors playing
Absolutely.
his characters.
Right.
Absolutely. And I just think at this point, I just think it's just crazy that people have an issue with something like that. Like, oh, geographically, it wouldn't make sense. So you're telling me that there's flying dragons and people that are about
Yeah, so
5 and
they want to
magic
nitpick on
and
just the one thing to
talking
just make their
trees.
worldview seem like
Exactly.
it's the actual world's view.
Yeah.
When just shut the hell up.
Oh,
Like the
yeah,
answer to the
but
question is like
I'm
just shut up, stop talking.
Yeah.
I think I'm really excited for the fact that Rings of Power came out, and it's just kind of like Avatar: The Last Airbender. That came out back in like 2005. So for us as teenagers, we watched that. We're like, oh, it's like a newfound fandom,
Mhm.
if that makes any sense. Like people are getting excited about it again. Because I think now on Amazon Prime, you can watch all the Lord of the Rings for free. I think it's on Amazon Prime Video because of Rings of Power. So
Probably. That makes sense.
it's just exciting to see it have some type of renewed excitement and
back.
fandom.
Like it's back in the cultural sphere. Yeah. Yeah, for fans,
Relevant.
I love
Yeah,
that.
It's culturally relevant for us nerds. So
yeah, enjoy. I have no interest. But real quick, I just want to call out Beast March sent a $5 donation in through Ko-fi. Thank you so much.
Yay!
No message or anything, just send a donation, but much appreciated.
Respect.
Also, I wanted to point out, Lampy was asking, do they have that as an audiobook, referring to the Silmarillion? I'm assuming no.
Sure, they do.
They do? Someone read 7,000.
I would think they do.
I mean,
Hold on.
that's
Let
one
me
way
check.
to go
I'm
for it.
pretty sure.
Rachel's gonna verify.
Oh, there are a bunch of YouTube videos. A couple people I follow do have like where they cover like the Silmarillion.
So like they read it and then they make a YouTube channel out of explaining it back to other people.
Correct.
Gotcha.
I own one of the Silmarillion audiobooks, so
Well, there you
yeah.
go. So that's an option. I don't know. Audiobooks, I feel like those are much easier to tune out of for me. But then again, I wouldn't have been reading in the first place. So
I know it's like sound really weird, but I like reading books simply for the feeling of turning pages, and I like the smell of like books.
So
I know that sounds.
I don't think
I know
that
that
sounds
sounds
weird. I don't think that sounds weird at all. I'm guessing.
I do. Unless the book has like a chicken,
I'm guessing you've like been
smell.
reading like from a very young age.
I like the feel. I like the feel of turning the page and having to mark it, and the smell of the book, and just the way it feels to. You know what, Jeff? I'm gonna be nice. I'm gonna be nice because we're on live right now, so you got it.
No, I'm assuming like that. Look at this fool. I'm assuming it's like memories from like it's nostalgic. It's comfortable to you.
It
right?
is.
Yeah,
it
so
is.
Makes
It's
sense.
comforting.
Like a meditation ritual.
Don't hate on me, Jeff, because I was balling at the Scholastic Book Fair. Don't hate. Do not hate, okay?
Getting them Goosebumps books.
Well, all right. That should do it for everything we've been watching and playing. Let's jump into our first topic here, which is that UK regulators have essentially said that they have oppositions to the Xbox Activision Blizzard merger. They've thrown in a couple of caveats that would maybe ease their opposition. One of which is that they divest the Call of Duty franchise from the rest of the acquisition. So like Call of Duty can spin out and be its own entity, and then Microsoft should be fine to take everything else in a portfolio. That's one suggestion. But one of the claims that they make is it's a little strangely worded. I'm like, Rachel, I hope that you can maybe, if you know any more to this situation, can maybe make this make sense, because the sentence is bizarre. Let me find it real quick so I don't misquote it.
Yeah, I'm just like, I'm trying to pull up the official wording. Legal documents are always fun.
Right. Yeah. All right. So they essentially say the merger could make Microsoft even stronger in cloud gaming, stifling competition in this growing market, and harming UK gamers who cannot afford expensive consoles. So
Right.
that sentence in particular is kind of a full-on contradiction.
Yeah.
Correct.
So yes, Microsoft has the Azure platform. It's a very big player in the cloud gaming space, and they are dominant in that space. Like, I don't think they have very big competition in gaming in particular. Like, Amazon Luna exists, but I don't think anyone's really using Amazon Luna. They're using Amazon Cloud for other things, of course.
Hmm.
But this in particular, they say could harm gamers who cannot afford expensive consoles. That just doesn't make sense because cloud is literally the elimination of the need for consoles
Right.
entirely. So, like, as this being one of the points that they make in terms of opposition to this deal, like, how does this look like when they actually do have to come to defending this point? Because it seems like Microsoft could very easily be like, no, like that's factually wrong, makes no sense, therefore you don't have an argument.
Right, and that's exactly what it is
yeah.
to me.
Well, I mean, first of all, there have been many analysts who have said that the CMA know that they're not going to win this, so they're basically trying to get some concessions to make they're not going to be able to outright block the merger, but they're suggesting concessions that will honestly make it look like they did something. I mean, that's not quite how the analysts put it, but that's how I see it.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, the sentence you quoted is from like their little like blurb at the top where they summarize everything. And in the actual expanded text, it's a tiny bit clearer because basically what they're saying is that making Microsoft stronger in the cloud gaming sector where they're already dominant could harm overall competition, which would mean that it is, so if Microsoft makes these like, becomes a stronger company, it will harm UK gamers who don't necessarily want who can't. Well, let me just quote because again, I'm sorry, my brain is all over the place.
No problem.
The CMA provisionally found that buying one of the world's most important game publishers could reinforce this strong position and substantially reduce the competition that Microsoft would otherwise face in the cloud gaming market in the UK. This could alter the future of gaming, potentially harming UK gamers, particularly those who cannot afford or do not want to buy an expensive gaming console or gaming PC. So I think what they're saying is that since cloud gaming is the alternative to expensive gaming or gaming consoles and PCs, that if there isn't a lot of competition in that market, then Microsoft can set whatever price they want.
Right. Okay. That makes a lot more sense.
I have a couple questions.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a couple ways you can play. You can play on your phone, right? And so if someone who wants to play Call of Duty, I would think that they already own a console or a PC. Would that be a fair assessment?
I think that's kind of looking at it the wrong way around, at least as far as
Well, I'm going
like a market goes.
going someplace, but what I mean is, like, for the most point, someone either who wants to play Call of Duty either owns a phone, a console, or a PC.
Yeah, that's fair to say.
Right. So they're saying that they could essentially, if they don't already own a console and they want to play on phone, that Microsoft could make Game Pass, let's say $40. And because they own Call of Duty and they want to play Call of Duty, that they have no choice but to pay that $40.
Basically, yeah.
Okay. All right.
I mean, it's not just Call of Duty, but I think that they've latched on, like everyone in this case, like Sony and the regulators and everything have. I mean, I think it's fair to look at Call of Duty because that is the world's most popular and successful franchise. But I do think that a lot of times because they're using that as the example, I think people can kind of hyperfixate on it a little bit when they're trying to either criticize one side or the other.
Right.
Because like I do like want to tell people like don't automatically side with Microsoft just because Sony is opposing them. It's like, yes, Sony's arguments in the arena have been self-serving, but that doesn't mean that the regulators are wrong.
Yeah. Now here's my point to that as well, though, because even without making anything exclusive, I feel like it coming from Sony, someone who notoriously make things exclusive, and I'm not just talking about games, I'm talking about content from games,
like
exclusive.
Even physical stuff. Like they've made exclusive and peripherals that only work exclusively with their devices. Like
Yeah, like Destiny,
discs and saving media.
Stripes, even while Hogwarts Legacy just came out, right? They had exclusive content for an entire year
Yep.
for content from a game that's multi-platform. And even in my mind, I'm thinking, well, wait, I have a PS5. Should I just get it for PlayStation to avoid that?
Mm-hmm.
Even though I own an Xbox, I'm thinking, oh, should I just get it for PlayStation to avoid that?
Yeah, that's what they want. Yeah, that's the
And
whole
I
purpose.
think exactly that's exactly what they want. And that's why they pay for these timed exclusives. Which to me, if I'm paying the same price for a game, I want everything that comes with that game when that game comes out. And unless it's part of like a digital deluxe edition, which is readily available to me no matter what console I'm buying it on, then that's different. But if you're making it exclusive, you pay the same price as PlayStation players, but you get less content for an entire year. Also, this is on a single player game, which a year from now I probably won't even be playing. And then they have the nerve to talk about, oh well, they Call of Duty.
No, it's
Duty.
amazingly hypocritical for sure.
Yeah.
But I've actually, because I've been a strong proponent of just let the merger go through. Like I can see all these good things that could come to the value of Game Pass, to the future of Activision Blizzard as a company, for all the several dev teams who are kind of stuck making Call of Duty games, like it have been for like the last 15 years, whatever. But I've recently been hearing a lot of other arguments, kind of just in general against monopolies that start to make sense in a lot of ways. Like I'm not saying I agree with Sony's position in this, because Sony is amazingly hypocritical. But I kind of get where like not the FDA, the FTC and the CMA are coming from when they want to, at the very least, put up some opposition and some roadblocks and not make it seem like, hey, sure, it's all green ahead for you to just acquire all these smaller companies. One of the biggest ones is just kind of the history of acquisitions in general. Like when AT&T needed to be broken up several years ago, like AT&T claimed that them being broken up would hurt innovation in the industry. Like it would make it harder for them to continue to provide the service because they were kind of the only phone line provider. But as soon as they broke them up, we got the internet. Like folks figured out of innovation how to advance telephone line technology to the point where they changed the world. So like, even though we're talking about video games here, at the very least, if you stop these companies from having that much control over a thing, all you get is more competition, which breeds innovation. So like that by itself is enough to just be like, all right, well, maybe we should slow down in terms of this situation. Because it makes sense. Well, Microsoft is.
My thing was that then I feel like they should be opposed to it in general. But like Rachel mentioned, once again, Call of Duty always comes up.
Yeah, they do use Call of Duty as a linchpin.
We're okay with this as long as you set Call of Duty aside.
Yeah, and that's a really good question, because like if they were to, because that seems ridiculous. Like they're not going to do that. Like that's not a concession.
Like, why would they be?
Like they want to own it. They'll put it on all the platforms, but they want to own it, right? But if they did decide, let's say Microsoft's like, fine, we'll take Call of Duty out of this deal. How do you guys think that would actually affect this merger? Would Call of Duty be able to function in that capacity, and would Microsoft, Activision, Blizzard without Call of Duty be successful in what they were trying to do with this merger in the first place?
Yeah, and also that changes the price of the company now too. Like that's no longer
I don't think it would be the same price at all.
Company anymore. Like, that's no longer the same price. But also, if you're trying to stifle a possible monopoly on cloud gaming and for consumers not to be taken advantage of, to me, you would put limitations on price increases and different things of that nature to stifle now we own everything, now let's go up $7. Where that wouldn't have been a decision we would have made if we didn't have as much capital, from pulling all those other games in. Like those are things to me that you would put limitations on if you were trying to stifle that type of anti-competitorship. To me, just in my eyes, you should limit the price increases and things around that nature. I mean, I'm sure there's other logistics and stuff that go around that as well.
I'm still curious about the question I asked earlier in regards to like if they were to separate Call of Duty out, like if any of you guys think, like how do you think the industry would look in a post like Call of Duty as a solo entity out in the wild?
And it survived by itself is my question though.
Yeah, like what would that look like? Would all the studios that has ever worked on it be attached
stay
to
together,
that, or
right.
is it just
Yeah.
the Call of Duty IP and Activision as a parent company are just out in the wild, and Microsoft can take all the other stuff underneath it? I don't know.
Or do they mean that that's like a permanent? No, because if they're trying to stifle cloud gaming, or they're saying that that can't go to like a Game Pass or a cloud gaming service, that maybe they own it, but it kind of just can't be part of any type of like Game Pass deal, and it still has to remain like multi-platform. Because I don't see it excluding it from the deal, because there's no one studio just attached to Call of Duty. There's Treyarch, and then there's
Right. But like what's in this notice from the CMA?
Activision.
It seems to me like they're saying this can't be part of your deal. Like you can take all the other stuff, but leave Call of Duty out of it. So like Microsoft wouldn't own it, and that would essentially free Call of Duty to be multi-platform without Microsoft having to dictate that it's multi-platform.
But does that now mean somebody else can't buy them?
I don't know.
Are they just off the table permanently? Because if anybody owns them, or is it just Microsoft? If Microsoft owns them, does that create? You get what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
Now
It's
Sony now put a bid on them.
like that's the thing. Like it sounds like a ridiculous request.
I
I
So
was
like I'm
just about
just
to say that, like,
Yeah.
it seems very unrealistic for something like that to happen, especially as big as Call of Duty is. Like, Microsoft would be kind of, they're like a cash cow essentially. I think, even though it's free to play, like all the stuff that you can buy, and the fact that it's one of the most popular games in general in the world, it just doesn't seem like that would be a move that Microsoft would make. Like, oh yeah, let's just totally take our hands off of Call of Duty and just leave them be. Like, I just don't think that that's a realistic request from the people in the UK.
Yeah. Breaking up Activision Blizzard so that Microsoft doesn't buy the whole kit and caboodle, I don't think that's going to happen. I think that is, once again, we're in the negotiation phases. And frankly, what I think is going to happen is that the CMA and the FTC are going to say, like, well, you need to divest Activision. Microsoft is going to say, no. Okay, well, divest the Call of Duty teams. No. And then eventually it's gonna come down to, well, sign a legally binding agreement that you'll keep Call of Duty multi-platform for 20 years, something like that. Okay, sure, because that's what they were gonna do anyway. And then the FTC and the CMA can say, look, we did it, we're helping.
Or they're gonna say, oh, donate to this politician's campaign fund. I'm just saying.
No,
I'm not saying that's gonna happen. I'm just saying that might be a thing that comes in on a
say
separate
the
level.
part out loud.
That's very true. Yeah, they have to look like they're doing something, because like that's their job, is to try to stifle this stuff. And then when you get headlines that say, "Oh, this is like the biggest tech acquisition since sliced bread," I don't know how much sliced bread costs to acquire, but I'm just saying that's what these.
Well, you remember how
acquisitions...
much you got? You remember how much you got in your loaf, right? Was it half a loaf? You thought it was a full loaf, so that could be a thing too. We don't know.
Jeff is referred to. I bought a slice of bread at the store, and literally
A loaf of bread.
A loaf of bread at the store, and half of the loaf was half the size of the other half of the loaf. It was just small bread in the bag.
Aw. I will say, just I know we probably want to talk about the Nintendo Direct, and I want to talk about it too. I just want to say, like, a thing about the Activision Blizzard merger. And again, I don't want to sound like I'm a Sony apologist, because I really don't think they should be involved in this discussion at all. Or if they should, at the very least, Nintendo should be equally involved, and Nintendo isn't.
Yeah,
because
they just ignore them. They fly.
I find it kind of disingenuous that everyone's all like, well, it's just Microsoft versus Sony. Like, no, Nintendo is part of this too. They have built an image where, people are like, well, that's Nintendo, they're off doing their own. Like, no, they are part of this. They are as big as the other two companies, and they need to be part of this conversation too. But I will say, like, if I can play devil's advocate for just a moment, Sony having exclusive titles and that's the result of, like, things that they've built internally to support that. Like, that's why they have all those exclusive games. And
No, they
that's
paid
why...
for them. Like Bungie, like with Destiny, they paid for content for a year before it would be available to Xbox owners. So Destiny, it was strikes and weapons and such that were exclusive to PlayStation because they paid for it, that they got before everybody else, and then a year later, or it didn't come at all, then it would come to Xbox.
Yeah, well, you're talking about exclusive content in games. I'm talking about exclusive games as well.
Gotcha.
But I mean, it's kind of the same thing if you think about it. It's like regardless of what it was that they offered to the developers in question or
Mhm.
the publishers, whether it was just money or whether it was, in the case of developers, more freedom, whatever it was, it is something that they have grown internally as a brand that Microsoft has failed to do. Like the fact that they have all these exclusives, like you could say that as the result of them, like using their own advantages in the industry. But the fact that Microsoft has not been able to do that, I do understand why when Microsoft turns around and says, "Okay, I'm going to offer $70 billion to have my own thing," it's perfectly understandable that
Mhm.
the response is, "Okay, you're trying to do what took Sony like a decade to do.
Mhm.
You're trying to do it all at once, and I'm not sanguine about the thought of all of this massive chunk of the gaming landscape that was formerly independent suddenly being under your umbrella, because it took Sony a long time to build up like their exclusive like like their reputation for having exclusive games and exclusive content, and it feels like Microsoft is trying to take a giant shortcut now that they
Yeah,
finally have
and
the
it's
means
what
to
they
do
always
so.
do. Like it's
But
it's
here's my thing. I don't care if it took 6 years or a week. Exclusive is exclusive. Once
Mhm.
a game is different. Like, okay, God of War, we know that's Xbox exclusive. I mean, PlayStation exclusive. Eventually, it might come to PC, but it's a PlayStation exclusive.
Mhm.
When I'm paying the same, if God of War was on Xbox and I'm paying the same price and getting less than the full game, that's a problem for me. I don't care if they're paying extra to take content away from one set of players.
right.
Mhm.
As a third party creator, I don't feel like that's something that should be done. If anything, then that game should be $70 and I should be paying 60. Not the same price if I'm not
Yeah.
getting all the content that's readily available for that game. You're telling me I gotta wait a year.
Yeah, it's a
That
it's a
makes no sense
scummy
to me.
it's a scummy part of this whole exclusive battlefield. Um, which this was kind of the final point I wanted to make or ask in regards to this whole question is: should the FTC and CMA be asking why does exclusivity exist in this industry? Period. Because like for similar industries like movies, for example, a studio can make a movie and then it just plays in all the theaters or goes to all the video formats or streaming services or whatever, right? Like
Mhm.
it's not like this is an AMC exclusive and like only AMC can ever get these movies, right? That's not a thing that I'm aware of. So like why
Right.
do video games get to have this sort of weird, and honestly I think it's because they were new. Like they were like, this helps us in a way, and there's no one really overhead to pay attention and regulate this. But now that they are paying attention, is there anyone wise enough to propose, hey, what'll solve this problem is nobody gets exclusives. Go ahead and buy Activision Blizzard. Go ahead and buy Bungie. But make sure those games go to all the platforms. All of them. Nintendo, put your games on Xbox. Sony, put your games on, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's a ruling that they can make overall that fixes this problem entirely.
I feel like that would never happen. Number one, because that is what PlayStation has built their whole ecosystem on is
And Nintendo.
exclusive.
And
Yes.
Nintendo, right.
Nintendo is still charging $60 for what you say, Splatoon 2
No,
is the same
they're
price as
charging $60 for
Splatoon 3.
Splatoon 1 and Splatoon
2 and 3.
No, 2 and 3. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait,
So
separately?
there would never be
Yes,
a
at the
thing.
same time.
The Wii
That would
U
never
title
be a thing.
Splatoon is still $60.
They would never do that. That would never be a thing.
Well, like I said earlier, it's like Nintendo should be involved because this is something that affects them too. Yeah, that's a way to get Nintendo involved for sure.
Oh, a couple of people in chat are telling me, Lampy and King's Dead and John Lee Wild are all telling me that used to be a thing for movie studios. Like the theaters would exclusively have ties to the production houses, and the Paramount law stopped that. So regulators actually fixed that in the movie industry. I'm curious, how long did that take? Like, when did that law come out versus when movies became like a thing? Because maybe we'll just get there at some point in video games. Because I feel
This
like
I
that
actually
like
don't
we're
know.
in that era now, especially with this whole exclusivity argument.
Well, I think again, I want to just like point out what I think is the real issue here, which I think the main reason Sony is pushing back on this is because Microsoft has come up with something that Sony hasn't, which is Xbox Game Pass. So, and again, I really don't think the issue is that they're afraid Microsoft is going to put Call of Duty on Xbox exclusively. Anybody with functioning sense of business knows that that would not be in Microsoft's best interest. That cuts off a giant audience that they could get a lot of money out of. They're not going to do that. What they are afraid of is that Microsoft is going to put it on Xbox Game Pass, which is something that they have not yet been able to replicate. So, and I love the whole like Microsoft mentioned that it did offer Sony Call of Duty on PlayStation Plus, but Sony is not yet ready to offer day one releases on PlayStation Plus.
Right.
So they're not yet.
That puts them in their lap. Like, hey, we're going to give it to you, so you can give it for free, but I don't know, that's up to you now.
So I think that's really what's at the crux of the whole issue here. Excuse me. And again, I think that's why the CMA's provisional findings are centered around cloud gaming, is because that's actually what's at the heart of the issue here.
Right. Makes sense. Any lingering thoughts in regards to this topic before we move on to the Nintendo Direct stuff? Nope. Alrighty. So Nintendo Direct. Big announcements for a change. I was full on ready to be disappointed by whatever Nintendo was going to say. But the Tears of the Kingdom, Legend of Zelda, has not been moved back. It is, however, $70. That I do take issue with. Because this is.
I saw that and I was like, there is no way. There is no way.
Ain't no next gen version. So
no, it's like, is that like you'll get? And I saw. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. Go right ahead because this is where I wanted to start things off.
So like I was reading it and it was like, oh, for $129 you'll get an art book and you'll get like a super nice case. But and I was like, you know, that's nice. Okay, for the $129 version, cool. That sounds pretty neat. But for the game, the base game itself, you're gonna tell me that you're gonna charge us $70 off rip? No, I'm good. I'm good on that. No, I'm straight.
That makes no sense. To me,
that makes no sense at all.
Yeah, because the $70 versions of most games are the next gen.
Yeah, like that's where they were trying to be like, hey, this is the next step. It's been timed and long enough. Now it's 70.
Next gen is the key thing in that scenario. So we go up $10. Okay, $10. Next gen don't like it, but okay, fine. I'll pay it for those extra frames and such. Now we talking about the Switch. From Switch to Switch, that don't make no sense to me. We don't make no sense. But am I going to pay it? Yes, I am. So there's also that. So,
oh God, that's what's so frustrating about it. Because yeah, most people are going to pay it. They'll say like, you know what, for Legend of Zelda, I can swing that. Like for another Breath of the Wild, I don't want to, but I'll do it.
Yeah, it's like you're hesitant, but you're like, you know what? You know it's going to be a good game, so let me just fork out the extra $10-15. But at the same time, it's like highway robbery to me in a way. Like they're doing it because they know there is really no rhyme or reason other than the fact that they know that people are going to pay for it because it's a Zelda game.
Yeah, I don't think there was any other game they could have raised the price on, and I don't know if that's what Limpy meant by when they're doing it. I'm not sure. But I don't think there's any other game as hyped for Switch to come out, except for was that a Metroid 4 that was supposed to come out?
Oh, but definitely not at the same level.
That's not coming. Yeah, but like
people are looking forward to it, but definitely not the same level.
Yeah, nothing as big that they could justify making $70. People would just maybe grunt a little bit under their breath, but still fork over them to that $70 plus tax at the register.
And Nintendo is saying that this isn't like a thing. Like this isn't like across the board going forward. They're saying like, oh, they'll evaluate like the value of each new release going forward.
On a base by base.
Yeah. But like, what does that even mean?
Well, I think what Lampy might mean is the fact that, and again, I don't know for sure, but I've heard the rumors that there is a new Switch coming out. There's a new console coming out. And that this, well, I mean, the Switch is 6 years old, so we would be pretty on this would be pretty on track for them to announce a new console coming out. And it wouldn't surprise me if one of the first games that is, one of the games that is pushed as like a flagship title or something is Tears of the Kingdom, because that's kind of how it was with Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
That was released first on the Wii U, and then it was released on the Switch. And the Switch version, the Switch, with its better hardware, it was better looking, and yeah.
They also did the same thing with Twilight Princess, the generation before that. Twilight Princess released on the Wii and the GameCube.
So yeah, I'm just kind of wondering if it's like they're saying that's like this is not going to be the thing going forward with Switch games. I'm kind of wondering, is it going to be the way going forward with Switch 2 games?
And it's curious because they've not announced anything new in terms of hardware, but they're saying that the price is $70. So does that mean that if you buy this on whatever the Switch 2 is, it's $70, but then on the regular Switch, it's also $70?
Unless they're doing a next gen upgrade for free and they're just letting you pay for it now type situation. Like you pay $70 now, and then if you ever decide to get the Switch DOS, you can upgrade for free.
Switch DOS. I mean, yeah, that could make sense. They're like, oh yeah, the game's just $70, but you have it on both platforms.
I can see that.
Which seems strangely not Nintendo, but for a price increase of that nature, maybe they could pull that off.
Yeah, or it could be a thing where they have backwards compatibility with the Switch 2 has backwards compatibility in a way that but they know they're not just gonna blanket shift all of their games up $10. They're not gonna that would be asinine for them to do. I think it's more just that they're taking what they know already is gonna be a top seller. They know people are gonna buy a Legend of Zelda game. So this is how they're like, okay, now flip the sign over, it's $70 now. And eventually they're going to do this with other games. Next Mario game is going to be $70.
Probably, yeah.
The Metroid Prime 4, if it ever gets released, that's going to be $70. They're gonna walk us there. It's gonna be baby steps getting there, and then it's gonna be like a couple of years from now where you and the four of us are gonna talk again. There's gonna be a Nintendo console out. Games for it are all gonna be $70, and that I think that's the scenario we're going to find ourselves in.
Yeah, and we're kind of stuck because, like you were mentioning earlier, Nintendo has built this reputation of impunity in terms of like the market, and it's because of their sort of insular exclusivity and kind of like their monopoly on just quality. Like, who has like the most like 10 out of 10 rated games across the board, like on one platform? It's probably Nintendo. So like
I wouldn't dispute that.
Yeah, so like they've essentially earned the right through that history of just charging whatever the hell they want in the industry and doing whatever the hell they want in the industry. And like we grumble about it all we want, but like we still gotta play those games. Like we can't go and not. I'm just not gonna not play the next Zelda out of protest.
Yeah, I mean I could just borrow from you, but that's
you're gonna be like this. You're gonna be like this on his. He's gonna be like this on his podcast. Complain, and then in the background.
Yeah. Yep. Like what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to just not play it?
Exactly. Yeah.
But I mean, we can talk more about Zelda if we want. But there's a lot of other stuff that they did go into during this direct. I'll scroll to the top of the list. But we got the Metroid Prime remaster. Like we've been waiting on news about 4. We've been waiting on news about a trilogy release, but at the very least, the first one has been finished as a remaster and it released that same day. I don't know if anyone has gotten a chance to try it out. It is $40, which is gracious, very gracious of Nintendo.
I've seen the game. I've seen the gameplay. It looks pretty good. I've seen like I guess official gameplay or whatever. It looks pretty neat.
Yeah, I've not played any of the Prime series, so like I was waiting for like a triple pack to be like, all right, yes, let me grab this and I'll play through all of them. For just the first one for $40, I'm still a little hesitant.
To me would have been like a nice price point for that. $29.99. $40 to me is just $10 too much.
Well, I agree, and it's kind of like like you said, a lot of people have been news about Metro Prime 4, but they're like, damn, here's a remaster. Here you go. Damn, leave us alone.
I for one felt how they felt when they announced Diablo Immortal at BlizzCon. That's just how I felt. Like I didn't ask for a mobile game. I didn't ask for a remaster. Like I feel like now you just kind of buy time. Like all we got was what a symbol for Metroid 4 Prime 4? Like
Yeah,
that's all
pretty
we
much.
got when they announced. Like we've got nothing since, besides the fact that they had to restart production.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, I think. Well, I
Where
think the
that?
reason. I think the reason that they're starting with a remaster is because the original game came out in 2020 in 2002. There are legal adults right now who weren't born when the first Metroid Prime game came out. And if they want to sell, and it's not
Yeah.
it's not like Legend of Zelda. The Metroid series has not had the same consistent level of the same consistent release schedule, the same consistent level of quality. So if they want to get the new Nintendo kids on board, it's like, yes, they can peddle it to us, the millennial generation. But if they want to get the next generation on board, they've got to show them what Metroid Prime actually is.
Right.
Because I feel like there are a lot of, if they don't, there are going to be a lot of gamers who are, my like younger brother's generation who are like, Metroid Prime. I've never played a Metroid
Yeah,
Prime
like,
game. I don't know if
what
I'm
that
interested in
is.
4.
They just released Dread not too long ago, which is the more traditional 2D Metroid thing. Like, did that
Mhm.
sell
Yeah.
well?
It did. Yeah.
Because like if a new gen is like way into games like Hollow Knight, which is very very popular,
Mhm.
you could sell them on the idea, well, this is where that came from, and then like they play a good 2D game, and it's like, oh, now it's first person. Because that's kind of how they sold us on Prime. It was like, oh, I remember Super Metroid. This is it now
Mhm.
as a first person shooter. Let me see what that's like.
Okay.
But like, yeah, like it's a no brainer for them to just do a remaster, because I do think people have been asking for this. Like of all the kind of game series that get remasters, a lot of folks were like, where's the Prime series?
I know. Just
I was one of those folks.
You were the only folks
I
that
don't
I
think I
know
was the only
of,
one.
and I know a lot of people.
Not too sure how truthful that is, but I will say it does look good at the very least. Like regardless of price, like it does like they put some work into this. Like I keep seeing posts about like all the new graphical upgrades into it, and they updated the controls, which is something that was not afforded to the GoldenEye remake, I don't think. So I might get it.
I'm
Nice.
not. The one thing I haven't been able to check, I was wondering, I need to do some research, but maybe somebody here will know the answer. For the first Metroid Prime was already remastered when it was ported to the Wii in
Yeah,
the Metroid Prime trilogy. They added some new features to it. Does anyone know if Metroid Prime remastered for the Switch is a remastered version of the original Metroid Prime, or is it a remaster of the remaster?
I think it might be a remaster of the remaster.
Master of the GameCube version.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, not
I
GameCube.
mean,
The Wii version.
the Wii version.
Wii?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's I'm sorry, I'm having difficulties with I really need my computer back. Okay. There is a side by side, Rachel, of the one that came out for the Wii and the one that's on the remaster for the Switch. So it's the remaster of the remaster. Yeah.
Okay.
So
That
it's like
makes
a
sense.
side by side comparison.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm big on game preservation, and I'm firmly of the opinion that that moving forward, every generation should be able to play all of the games that came before if
That'd
they
be
should feel
nice.
so inclined. I'm not sure I'm so keen on charging them $40 for the privilege, but they sure as heck aren't going to be able to play it on the GameCube if they don't already own one, because those things are worth the moon.
Yeah, it's rough.
I have my
But hey.
original my original GameCube with 2 controllers on all the cords and a nice little box in my closet.
Hold on to
You got
that.
the internet connections for it too?
I'm sorry, Jeff. No, I don't. He's really coming for me today, Jeff.
No, I'm just curious.
That 256K modem adapter.
Exactly.
Wait, hold on.
yeah.
You should have went like this would be like. That's what you should have did, Sigma.
I think, but yeah, that's my opinion. Is just that they are gearing us up for Metroid Prime 4. They're probably going to release. I think probably they're not going to do as much to the other 2 Metroid Prime games when they re-release them. Probably still sell them for the same price.
Mhm.
But I have heard a rumor that the tune-ups on Metroid Primes 2 and 3 are not as extensive as they were on the original Metroid Prime with this remaster. But again, don't quote me on that. I don't know for sure.
Because they only
that's
ever
what I've heard.
like for the Wii ports, they only ever remastered the first one, not the second and third one. Or did those come as well?
I don't know for sure. I'd have to do a little more research, but I know that. Well, I mean, Metroid Prime 3 only came out for the Wii, and I don't remember about Metroid Prime 2. So I'd have to do some more research, but I mean, it could also just be that they heard, hey, they heard all the chatter online and said, hey, everybody wants a new a remaster of Metroid Prime. Ka-ching, ka-ching. We could release all 3 of them for $40, or
But
let's release the first one for $40 and see how that gets us.
I honestly suspected that they'd release all 3 for $60, and
Mhm.
shame on me for thinking shame on me for thinking to do something that reasonable. Because I would have absolutely bought that. All 3 games for $60. That's a great deal.
they'll do the first one, and the next 2 will be DLC. It'll be $15 a piece.
Damn, I feel like that's disrespect based on let's charge 40 for the first one and 15 for the other 2. But I mean, I really do want to play this remaster, so I may have to fork over the $40.
Nice. You gonna get the physical copy?
No, what do I look like? A pleb?
He was like, ew, that's beneath me. The physical copy.
Let me see one of these CDs in my house. Fling that shit out the window like a frisbee. All right, we got a release date and some new footage for Pikmin 4. Any big Pikmin fans? No, yeah, me neither. Like I'm
Not
starting.
really. It looked cute.
I think that game was
got
ugly.
an
I've
ice
always hated how
Pikmin
it
or
looks.
something.
Say again?
We had an ice Pikmin. I think that's new. That's like a new thing. I think.
The dog is also new, I think.
Oh.
Yeah, they showed the adorable
played a
dog
Pikmin
helper it's
game.
described as. Yeah, I
haven't
don't
played a
care about
game in a
Pikmin.
long time.
Like I played The Wild at Heart, which is on Game Pass, and it's a Pikmin like, and I like the art style in that, and I had a good time with the mechanics. So I'm assuming Pikmin is the same, but I hate how Pikmin look. I think I think that art style is goofy, and that has just put me off on the series. So I'm sorry, I'm shallow.
Yeah, I've played more Pikmin and Smash Bros than I have any actual Pikmin game.
But that's right. I mean, a lot of
Well,
people
all
are
of them.
fans.
You know what
Like,
I meant.
Yeah, this is the 4th of these such games. So like, there are people who love and adore it. So hopefully they are excited that they will be getting more Pikmin soonish. Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games coming to Nintendo Switch Online. This is also a thing that dropped the same day as the conference. You get the advanced games if you're signed up to the expansion pass. So you get just Game Boy if you have regular Switch Online service. Anybody excited to retread some Game Boy and Game Boy Advance stuff?
Well, I'll just say this: like Game Pass is like the Game Pass. Sorry, this Direct is like I'm over here like being the champion for game preservation, and then they're giving it to me. Perhaps not as cheaply as I would like, but they're making it happen. I'm trying to find the list of games that's coming out.
Because just like the other online offerings in Nintendo's service, like it's a small list. Like it's not like a big breadth of stuff, but they'll be adding new things periodically. So who's to say what will be in there in the future? Though they did give us a little bit of info.
I mean, some of these are pretty good games. You got Metroid 2, Link's Awakening, Superstar Saga, Metroid Fusion, Fire Emblem, Blazing Sword, Golden Sun, all things that, I would like to I would like to play.
Golden Sun sounds good.
Yeah, quality Game Boy stuff. The advanced stuff, Super Mario Bros. 3, which that already exists in their NES library, I believe, right? So this would be the remaster of the NES game that came out for Game Boy Advance, which I remember playing. That was where I played that game most. They got Minish Cap coming to Advance, Mario Kart Super Circuit, Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, WarioWare Inc. Mega Micro Games, and something called Kuruden, which I remember that name, but I don't know what that is.
I remember that.
I played that. Excuse me.
Get the Pokemon trading card game. Okay, nice.
And stuff that you can look forward to in the future: Legend of Zelda: Oracle of Seasons and Ages, the Pokemon trading card game, Kirby Tilt and Tumble.
All games that they cannot remaster or remake into profitable new games, probably. I'm letting my cynic show, but yes. But hey, again,
they could have made money off of Golden Sun, like a proper Golden Sun remaster. Or maybe not. I don't know.
Maybe.
It's kind of a niche.
Maybe. But yeah, I would assert that they could also make money on a new Tetris if they just re-release Tetris, because everybody loves Tetris.
That's
Oh,
true.
that's true.
That's true. Did they have that Tetris 99 or something?
Yeah, I think that's still out there. Still doing its thing. But we finally get a release date for the long finished Advance Wars 1+2. That's a reboot / remake of the first two Advance Wars games, something like that. Advance Wars was always a great series. I love those tactics games. So good on them for finally getting that out there. More stuff for Mario Kart, like more DLC for Mario Kart, more DLC for Splatoon. What is this Kirby's Return to Dreamland? This is a new game, or is this another
That's a
remaster? Okay.
Yeah. They are adding a little bit of new content to it, but it's a remaster basically.
But that's a what, 64 game or like a Wii deal?
Hold
It
on.
was a 2011 Wii title.
Wii title. Huh, odd. I wonder what's the thinking behind that. Like they have new Kirby games on the system already. Like why were they trying to do a remaster of a Wii Kirby game?
Because the Kirby titles on the Switch did pretty well.
All right, like this was easier than just a full-on sequel.
Let me just expand on that a little bit. Well, doing a remaster is cheaper and easier than making a sequel. So people really liked Kirby and the Forgotten Land. So they'll make, so in lieu of like spending like the 6-7 years and the millions of dollars to make and they're probably still working on a sequel as well.
Yeah,
so
to keep
sequel,
interest, right. Gotcha.
To keep interest high and to create more content for people who liked Forgotten Land and like Kirby, they just re-release a Kirby game. Gotcha. Like I feel like it's the economics behind game remakes and remasters.
Yeah, because, and this is a thing that the industry is well aware of now, is like if you're in the AAA space and you're making something for a big budget, the time frame has expanded. Like it takes much longer to actually get from the start to the finish line. So yeah, these remasters fill the gaps in the portfolio because it does not take 2 to 3 years for a brand new game.
I kind of feel like it's like if you're in school and you write a paper and then like 2 semesters later you get a course that's not the exact same course but it's similar. So they say, hey, you have to write about this paper. You have to write about this subject. And you're like, oh, I kind of wrote a paper about that like 3 semesters ago. So you go back to that paper, change the title, maybe change a few references and paragraphs. And they're like, here you go. But it's essentially like the same thing. That's what I kind of think of when I see remasters. It's just glossier, prettier graphics, but it's essentially the exact same thing.
It's filler.
That's basically that is what it is. So.
Okay, so there's a lot of other smaller announcements throughout the Direct. If any of you guys want to dive into some of the other stuff they announced, feel free to bring it up, because personally, a lot of this stuff is mostly like DLC add-ons to some of their bigger games like Xenoblade and Fire Emblem. I mean, there's Disney Illusion Island, which they're showing more of, which looks like the new Super Mario Bros. 4-player platform and stuff. So I'm a little interested to see how that goes.
Dark Style looked good on that.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just say, I'm amused that Disney is finally starting to crack the code on good video game adaptation. Like between like this is looking pretty good. They've got Dreamlight Valley, and I just remember back like decades ago when they were trying to break into it, and they get Warren frickin' Spector to make Epic Mickey, and somehow they still don't manage to break into the games industry. I don't know, like maybe they needed to like change genres or something, but they've been trying for so long to break into the games industry, and they finally seem to be making it.
I feel like their biggest problem has always been impatience, because like they were onto something with their Toys to Life series, Disney Infinity. Like that was there was like really cool stuff in that series. Like maybe it wasn't as profitable as they wanted, but like there were really good ideas in that space. They also had that weird like destructible racing game.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
I cannot remember the name of it right now, but that was actually a really fun game. But then they just shut all those studios down. They went like, screw you guys.
Well, I will say you do see that the seeds of what became like Disney Dreamlight Valley in Disney Infinity, which
Right.
basically, hey, want to go into this like basically Disney multiverse and hang out with all of your favorite characters.
Mm-hmm.
As like I think what they made the mistake in is that they tried to make it into a toy line kind of thing. They were
Right.
doing they were trying to do the amiibo thing with Disney Infinity, and
Yeah.
that didn't work. I honestly think manufacturing costs were outweighing profits in that case.
That makes sense. Yeah, because
So
like even if people are buying and playing the game, but they may not be continuously buying the new toys that link to the game. They might have just been happy with what they had.
yeah. So yeah, I think that Disney's approach to getting into games has long needed refinements, and I think they finally found the secret sauce. So whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know yet, but that's my opinion.
Well, let's hope. I know that there's new stuff about Bayonetta Origins here. I don't know if you want to jump into that, Rachel.
I could. I want to be here a while, but no. Oh, we lost
Oh, looks
Kat.
like we lost Kat here. Hopefully she'll pop
That's
back in.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure she just got disconnected. But sure. Just it didn't reveal a whole lot of new stuff. I'll just say that it's basically everything we already knew. It's kind of like I don't know if I'd call it co-op because I don't know if it necessarily requires a second player, but it's basically a 2-player character system. It's more of a puzzle platformer game with like some action elements than it is. It actually reminds me of the Lara Croft isometric platformer games, like Tomb of Osiris
yes,
and
okay. Yeah, I
Guardian of
remember
Light.
those.
There's a name for that genre, but I can't remember what it is off the top
And those
of my
were
head.
co-op games. Like you played those with
Those
another
were.
player.
You could, or you could play them single player. I did because I'm antisocial.
Oh.
But I don't have any friends, Casey. But yeah, so that's that. I don't know if it's necessarily going to offer 2-player co-op, but it would. But some of the Bayonetta games have offered that in the past, so this would be kind of a new spin on it. And I'm digging the art style. I like that. I think Platinum is branching out a little bit. I think they are taking some concepts and ideas that they had, almost like sort of like it's like a game full of rejected concept art from various other Bayonetta games that they're making into its own spin-off game. And I like that. I think it's kind of fun.
I think it's really smart, especially with the Bayonetta series, which I've been saying for a while. I feel like that series may be hamstrung by its affiliation to Nintendo. Like, because like what they would probably want to do and be capable of doing, they can't on a freaking Switch. So going with this more watercolory art style kind of helps with the underpoweredness of that platform, because Bayonetta is probably their most recognizable, maybe most profitable franchise as a company. But like that's tied to Nintendo.
Yeah. So, I hope Kat can get back soon.
I mean, yeah, we're just about to wrap things up, so hopefully she will pop back in. But yeah, anything else on this list that anyone wanted to bring up? Jeff, I saw you were like browsing through most of it.
Yeah, just checking some of it out. Nothing that, like you say, a lot of it was just DLC and nothing else that kind of. Only thing I looked pretty interested was the Return to Castlevania that's coming out in March. That looks really good with the
Dead Cells.
The Dead Cells DLC.
Stuff. Yeah, that looks really. That looks really extensive. Like their Dead Cells' collaboration stuff in the past has mostly been just like skins.
Right.
Like the main character will just look like someone from another game, or will have the color scheme of someone from another. Because the Hollow Knight one was actually pretty unremarkable. Like it did not look like Hollow Knight at all. But this one looks like they went a lot further with the collaboration.
Also, just their only like surprise of the show, I was like, there's a new Professor Layton game coming out.
Oh yeah, yeah. This is brand new. Yeah,
well, like in a direct full of like games we already knew about, or remasters / remakes of old games, is like this. I think that might be one of the only games that they announced that's actually new, completely new. So didn't say anything about it. All they said, and I think in all the other games they've said this is like these are the games that are coming out. She back.
Hey.
Cat. Well, they said that all the other
guys, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, you're all good.
Just talking about the new Professor Layton game that they announced. They haven't announced a release date, but there's a new Professor Layton game coming out, so I'm excited about that.
I actually have the one on, because I still have my DSXL, so I still have that one, and I liked it. I liked it a lot. Yeah, so I'll check that out.
With that series, weren't they moving on from Professor Layton and like following his daughter or something for a while, or like a female character in that universe, something like that?
Trying to remember. It's been like 10 years since the last game came out, so
Damn, that's a while.
yeah.
Yeah, this game was super popular on the handhelds, but yeah, I guess since they switched to like a hybrid console, maybe they weren't focused on those more handheld specific series for a while.
You are right. They did make the last game in the series that they released was his daughter, Catriel.
Right. Okay.
And the one that they released before that was the crossover with Ace Attorney.
Objection. Speaking of, it's Ace Attorney has made me question my ability to interpret anything in the law field. Which is, it's crazy how a game can make me question my ability at my actual job. So,
I mean,
even though that isn't
what
my
art is for.
even even though I'm not a lawyer, even though I work in the law field, it's made me think like, do I not have a concept or understanding of? I'm just being silly, but I've been I've been playing the Ace Attorney before they got rid of the Nintendo eShop on the DS, all the DS stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They were selling, which kind of makes me think that Nintendo is kind of shortchanging people, or charging them more than they should. Because I got 3 of those games for like $29. It was 1, 2, and 3 or something like that for Ace Attorney. I got paid like $29 for it on the Nintendo eShop.
Yeah, because other publishers, like they offer discounts for old titles.
Right.
Yeah, like Nintendo just doesn't.
I think that's the same price that they offered the first 3 games on like Steam, I think, and the Switch. Because
it's like, is it the same? Okay,
I think it is. Yeah,
okay.
But the one they were charging a lot for was that they were charging a lot individually for, I think, like the Apollo Justice game and Spirit of Justice. But I do think that they lower their price if the games are eventually released on another console at a lower price. That's I think where Nintendo draws a line, because I know that the of the 6 mainline Ace Attorney games, the 4, 5, and 6 were eventually released on iOS and Android.
Right.
For a lower price, for not $60, put it that way.
Yeah, so it's almost as if there's competition, the pricing becomes fair. Mm-hmm. Like, weird how that works. But Kat, since you were offered us a little bit, was there anything left on this list that we didn't go over that you
no, and I do I'm sorry, Sigma. I don't mean to mess up the.
No, you're perfectly fine.
I apologize, though. But no, nothing else. I was really
All right, because there were a couple more announcements, a lot of smaller experiences, some other remakes, some other DLCs and whatnot. So if anyone in chat is curious, go pull up a Nintendo Direct or a news story about it. Find out what else was announced. But I feel like we covered most of the big stuff, and any of the smaller stuff that we were super into. So we'll go ahead and wrap things up. Hope you guys enjoyed. Rachel, where can folks find you on the internet, and what have you been up to?
You can find pretty much everything goes through my Twitter. It's at Rachel Kaiser, which you can see up above. I've been working on, I'm just doing the same thing I usually do, where I'm covering news for GamesBeat, and I also have my personal column at GamesBeat, which is called Kaiser Focus, and I also have my personal stuff where I write about non-game related topics. I am actually starting to write like a sort of midweek anything goes column about various topics, and I am going to talk about Forspoken as well this coming week. But today is Sunday, so that means there's going to be a new Golden Girls post, and there's going to be a new Perry Mason recap tomorrow.
Nice. Superman Jeff, where can folks find you? What do you be up to?
Oh man, just check me out at Superman Jeff 12 on Twitch, on Twitter. Hop into Discord if you're not a part of Discord. Just stay tuned in there. We got Super Smash coming back this afternoon.
Yeah.
And then next week I'm trying to get into some Hogwarts Legacy or some God of War. Let me see how that goes. So yeah.
Thank you. And Yoki and Kat. Will we be seeing any streams from you this week? Any content?
I don't know. I think I really am trying to get into Tekken. So I think it's mostly going to be offline for me. Just a lot of practice. If I do play online, I probably won't be streaming. It'll just be for ranked matches and just to kind of, I don't know. I guess I'm in competition mode now.
Sure.
So I don't know if I will be streaming. I may. But you can always catch me in the Open Party Discord, of course. And then also you can catch me on Twitter. I actually don't have a Facebook or a Instagram right now. So I'm kind of just trying to limit my social media presence just for a little bit. So, but I'm mostly on Twitter. And in the Open Party Discord, so that's where you can find me. I probably will maybe stream a little bit, but for probably over the next couple weeks, it's definitely going to be me kind of sparring in Tekken and trying to, get used to the competitive side of Tekken because I've never really done it before. So, wish me luck.
Oh yeah, good luck. Like I'm positive you'll do great. You kicking ass.
So hopefully,
For sure.
Thank you. So that's pretty much where you can find me.
Nice. As for me, you can find me at SigmaGears9 on this Twitch, as well as my Twitter. Later today, like Jeff mentioned, we'll be over on the Open Party Twitch, playing Smash Bros. For Super Smash Sunday. Outside of that, check on The Escapist for the rest of the stuff that I usually do. Be streaming all week. Should have new reviews dropping before the end of next week. I should also have a written piece going up before the end of next week for one of the games that I can't talk about because like I had to write so much about this game. Like I can't wait till this game is out. But outside of that, follow all these lovely people. Thank you everyone in the chats. Thank Be Smart again for your earlier donation. That was very sweet of you. That's gonna do it for today's show. Hope you enjoy. We'll see you next week. Peace.